And that is going to start with a dynamic trio that we have of Sophia Karakeva, Jonny Bentwood, and Todd Grossman. Sophia and Jonny co-chair the Tech Hub Special Interest Group, which is basically the nerds of the Nerd Fest get to unite and really dig into all of the data, and they know that that is said with love. They conducted some research, and Sophia's going to go into more of that, but I do want to make sure that you all know that part of AMEC is to have everyone come with questions, leave with questions, come with answers, leave with validation, or with new hypotheses, and bring the debate to this stage. And this next session is the example of bringing the debate to this stage. It is probably some good controversy, if there can be good controversy and good trouble that we know of, to be brought. And I would encourage you to challenge the findings that they're sharing with you of some of the other data that they have, but also remind you that we are a volunteer organization. And that means, except for 2 people, Julie and myself, all of the efforts and the energy that create accomplishment within this organization are completed by volunteers. And that includes these lovely volunteers who have put a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of thought and consideration into this to get to this point. So I would ask for everyone, whether you agree, disagree, love it, that you're always respectful and always courteous to the volunteers and anyone that we bring to the stage, but we welcome the debate. Thank you so much, Sophia. I'll turn it over to you.
Hello, everyone. I think that Jonny said most of my introduction, so I just will say that the Technology Hub, the special interest group of AMEC, has been created to, let's say, bridge a silo or a misunderstanding, misconception that exists between what technology vendors want to provide, and what technology buyers want to get in order to improve their work and find the right tool for their workforce. So we did conduct a survey among AMEC members. Jonny will tell the details of that, and I just can say that the results are very impressive. I was really stunned and challenged by some of the results, and I'm happy to say that we have Todd Grossman from Talkwalker, and he will be moderating the discussion today, trying to keep me and Jonny in the right loop so that we don't argue about some of the results that we found. So let us have a good discussion about that. Thank you.
As the moderator, we want to make this as interactive as possible, and some of you may be passionate about the data, and we just ask that you don't say, well, at my company, we do this. And we are trying not to say but in this discussion. We can replace but with and we can go from there. I was surprised by some of this data. Wait until you see. And it really, I was scratching my head in some places. For a show of hands, how many technology providers do we have in the room? Please raise your hand. OK. Hands down. How many technology buyers do we have in the room? And how many technology buyers are from the agency side? And how many technology buyers are from the in-house side? OK, this is going to be very interesting. Over to you, Jonny.
Thank you. This is going to get a bit contentious. And I want you to feel that this is going to bring out the best and worst of debating between us, because the results, when I found them, it made me really challenge the way the industry worked. And I just couldn't grasp it. I was like, how can buyers and sellers just have different views? Surely we should be thinking the same way. So we asked you guys identical questions about what is critical. And we split those critical questions into different areas. And we had a great number of responses, pretty much half and half between buyers and sellers. And when I saw the show of hands, it was pretty much the same thing. So as I'm going to go through these findings, and I should stress that all of these slides are going to be available to everyone, I want you to think, does this make sense to you? From a personal point of view, it made me feel astounded. So the first question is, when it comes to buying, what is the main reason that make people buy a solution? And the first thing I would expect is, because this is the first thing, buyers and sellers would say the same point. And I didn't. Now, we gave them three options, and with each option we said, this is what it means to be for evaluation, for enhanced, and strategic. And right from the start, there's a difference. The people who provide technology believe the most important thing is selling a strategic value, whereas the people who are using it say different. They say, you know what, does it do the job? Is it enhanced? And so it's like, okay, that's interesting. A little bit of disagreement. That's what we want. I was surprised, but it's what we want in this presentation. So we went on to the next question. What is the most important feature that influences a purchasing decision? And again, you would expect the answers to be the same. And I see the first of a theme that is coming up here that I see over and over again. And if you look at this slide, you'll see that, yeah, price is different. People who sell don't think price is that important. It's important, but not as critical. It's definitely one of the top things from a buyer perspective. But it's this bit that talks of ease of use. And this is something, as I go through this presentation, it's going to come up again and again and again. Why, when so much effort from technology providers is spent into making things easy for people like me, isn't it considered to be the most important thing? Or even in the top 4? Think about that, because I'm going to be asking you later on. So it did talk about functionality as being a really important feature. So we asked them, what are the most important functional areas? And again, it's completely different. We see that some of the things are the same, but automatically we see some things that are different. Why do in-house and agencies not see the same value in competitive benchmarking? Why is sentiment analysis not considered that important from a buyer's perspective? It's challenging me. Dashboards are considered to be the most important thing from a seller perspective, but only in 4th place from a buyer's perspective. Why are people thinking different things? Are they not talking to their customers? Are they just talking to the wrong people? Is there a difference between agencies who may be more mature in their approach compared to in-house, which may need the help from dashboards? But I do find it interesting, and I can give you my personal perspective, for example, why competitive benchmarking may be lower down. It's because the majority of the time, I'm asked, how are we doing? Rather than, how are we doing in respect to the market? I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying maybe that could be a reason.
Yeah, you bring a point over reliability on Twitter data.
One of the things that I find interesting, actually, I was at a web science conference, and Tim Berners-Lee, and he said, people confuse web science with Twitter science. Because Twitter is what's the easiest way to get information, people say that's what the web is. And it bugs me. It really bugs me when people say, we've got an audience intelligence tool, and we use Twitter as the proxy to understand what the world is. We use Twitter as an influencer identification tool. We'll use Twitter as a trend tool, as a forecasting tool, as a predictive tool, and all these other ways. But Twitter is an easy tool to measure, but it's not the tool. It's a part of the jigsaw, but it's not the complete jigsaw. So we talked about data sources as being really important. And we asked buyers and sellers of technology, what are the most critical data sources? Now, these two charts are identical. The only difference is I've sort of highlighted some of the key points on the chart on the red side of the screen. And there's some things that really jump out at me. And I think it's only fair we should point out the biggest ones that really freak me out. And I feel challenged, and I don't understand it. The question, to be very clear, was, what are the most critical data sources? It wasn't, what are the most critical data sources you can provide? It's, what are the most critical data sources? So people in my gig said, Facebook, Instagram are really important. But from a technology provider perspective, they do not say it's critical. And is this because they can't provide it? I would say it is. I find it really, really concerning. In the same way, data compliance is seen as the most important thing from a provider perspective. From a person who buys it like myself, it's a bit meh, because that's your problem. I want you to do it, you do it. It's a hygiene factor, tick box.
And it is a problem. It's a lot of work to make sure you're data compliant, because you're working with all of these companies and you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing for them. So it is our problem, but ultimately, if you're an agency or you're an organization and reporting to stakeholders, it will be your problem as well.
It is a problem, but it's your problem. It's
Sophia, you've been very quiet.
Well, regarding data compliance, it depends on how we look at it and the use that technology buyers are eventually doing with the data that technology providers are providing. So either we are talking about GDPR compliance or we are talking about other data compliance based on if you are data controller or data processor. So there might be a difference in that perspective. And as far as Facebook is concerned, I understand what the question was, and it's very clear what are the most critical data sources. But I believe that the majority of technology providers in this question answer based on what they can actually provide in order to be fair to the technology buyers. Because we all know that there has been restrictions with Facebook. It is not easy to monitor. It is not easy to provide the entire data set or the entire, I have a Greek word right now, the entire, let's say, set of the data that a technology buyer would like. So in favor of them, I would say that they answer based on that, what they can actually provide, instead of claiming that we can provide it and in the end not be able to provide it.
I understand that.
But
I find that upsetting as a buyer, because I want you to know what my problems are. My problem, if one of my clients is doing something big at Cannes and it's all going to be on Instagram, I can't say, well, sorry, can't measure Instagram, so let's not bother. It's not important. I need you as a provider to know it's important to me and know it's critical to me and validate that even if you can't provide it. But by seeing these results that you don't think it's critical makes me think that you haven't been listening to what's important. I need to go where my stakeholders are. Bears have known this for thousands of years, but humans have forgotten. You're looking at me like, what the hell? But I'm talking you fish where the fish are. And that's what we need to do. If my stakeholders are hanging out on TikTok, I need to measure there. If it's on Instagram, I need to be there. If it's on Facebook, I need to be there. I know this is a technology nightmare for you. I fully respect that. And a lot of my time is telling my clients that it's really hard. But I'm never going to say to them it's not important.
And then you have firewalls that providers can't get behind in some cases, or others have special ways of getting there. Some take the black and gray approach to getting data, and others can't get the data because it's a closed API.
I think that there's a grey area. Now, there's been quite a few court cases that have challenged this grey area about what is allowed and what isn't allowed. And whilst I can do things legally, I will do it to the extent I can. But I am always going to be searching for new ways, and I think there's this legacy of people saying, can't do it, or won't do it. And I need providers to understand what's critical to me and challenge those ways. Now, that may be by innovating, it may be by partnering, it may be by saying, we can't do this, so let's look at an alternative way to give you that way of working.
But at the same time, you want a provider that your relationship is built on trust, on transparency, so that you can actually know that on the other side you have someone you can believe in. So if we say that we can provide something and in the end you end up with excuses, we are not a reliable partner.
Oh, I get
so
that.
I would put trust and reliability above the actual fact that if I can catch a big fish with a very thin string.
I don't want a partner to lie to me. I don't want to say they can do something and I buy into them and they can't. But I do want them not to give up.
Oh, we are trying.
Right. And providers encourage their buyers to push them and to innovate and collaborate and build together. As you grow, providers grow.
We all win.
Right.
Okay, let's move on to the next bit of discussion. Setup and maintenance. I sort of see this as a squeeze at times, and I looked at what the most important areas are, and it's again this theme that comes out around ease of setup. Let's look at two particular parts on this chart. The most significant one is strong Boolean, and let's also have a look at ease of setup. From my perspective, I have one specific goal, which is getting the right data. Everything else is a bonus. I do not mind if it is complicated. I don't mind having to write really clever Boolean logic to be able to get the right data. I don't care about the complexity of it, provided I have the right data. And I see a lot of investment, clever use of AI, smart ways of doing different kinds of Boolean to take the typing out of it because it's already got it there for you. That makes it much easier, but less reliable. And I feel sorry for the partners out there who are spending all this time making it easier when I just want to say, has it got the right data? So all these other things that you can provide are great. I will sacrifice every single one of them, provided I can have the right data.
Well, let me just say that I think that from the technology providers' ease of setup to be at a higher level compared to technology buyers is that in many cases, when you get a tool, a platform, a dashboard, or whatever you are using, it's not aimed always to the same department. So different departments might be using the same tool at a different speed with the different requirements. So you need a tool that is easy to be used by these different people with different needs. So maybe that's why developers or providers are putting emphasis on the easy part of the setup.
And as the technology is getting better, and when people want to develop websites, oh, you had to know how to use HTML and do all of that stuff. It's so easy now. Everyone can just use plug-and-play things. There will be a time that you won't have to be as proficient in Boolean and doing those keywords, and you'll be able to trust the system to do the AI. It's just in its infancy right now in terms of what's happening.
I agree. I think it is in its infancy. Until there is a better solution, I'm going to have to rely on the hard stuff, the complex Boolean. As soon as I can be confident of getting the right data, everything else is moot. The next question, analytics, what we all love and what we all love. What type of analytics is the most important? Again, I was expecting to see complete parallel ways and everyone agreeing with each other. But we haven't. And this ease of thing comes into play again. We've got the partners who are talking about ease of analytics, ease of alerts, ease of reporting, as all being an automation and everything's in those top areas. That is what they have focused their research and development on. And yet I look at people like myself and I recognize I am a bit more in the mature side of how I take these technologies and use them to the full advantage. But what do we find most important? Exporting. Taking the data that these people provide and what I call aggregate analytics, combining that monitoring data with this web data, with this audience data, with this influence data, putting it all together, aggregating it, and giving me an answer. And maybe that is why exporting is so critical, because we want to use the data our way. And I have seen the most beautiful automated reports that all these technology companies can provide. And I feel sad because they have spent so much money investing in these single-click buttons, and it comes out in a beautiful email or PowerPoint. Never used it once. Never. Because my job is to tell brands two things. This is what it means. This is what you need to know. I'm a data storyteller. That's my job. I tell a story with the data that's provided to me. Data storytelling is not providing a bunch of pie charts and bar charts, even though that's pretty much what I'm doing here, but it's giving you an insight and a recommendation. So I'm sorry, technology providers who are trying to make life easy for me. I prefer to do it my way. I prefer to take your information, which speeds up the time. Maybe I used to spend 80% of my time collating the information and 20% of my time saying what you need to know. Now that collating information, thanks to what you guys can do, I can do in seconds. But I'm never going to use your automated functions. And that is why I don't care about ease. I care about the right data and what I can do with it. I do want to stress one other thing that I just don't get. The second most important thing to me, well, on this list, is engagement data. For the life of me, and we were debating this still this morning, I don't get it. How can it be so low? Todd?
I am so troubled that this whole study could be flawed if this is looking like this, but I know that's not the case. And I can't accept that engagement data. And then, Sophia, you're like, well, maybe it's something else that they mean by engagement data when they took this response. I'd love to know from the audience as well, maybe what they think that could mean, because it just seems so wrong. It's so important. As Chris said, currency this morning, currency is with engagement data.
So it baffles me.
Well, either it was not understood well as a term, engagement data, and also this morning I shared with these two gentlemen another. You said it was guess, I said it was assumption. That many technology providers do not actually do social media monitoring themselves, but they buy, let's say, from other providers, or they integrate social media in their own platforms, so they integrate it from a third party. So in that case, since they are not doing it themselves, maybe that's why engagement data was classified in a higher position compared to technology buyers.
Let's define engagement data on the stage right now, as you see it.
Engagement data is an action on something that's happened. So, article of the New York Times, I share it, I favorite it, I comment upon it, I like it, I re-syndicate it. Anything that involves a defined action is an engagement. That is the most important metric, more than vanity like reach, more than volume of mentions. It's an action. It's a defined thing that I can actually do something with.
Agreed.
Okay, business models. Pay attention, people who sell to me. I despair. And cost is pretty important to me. And you may try and come up with lots of different things, but it really comes down to one thing. How much data I use is what I want to be charged for. And when I ask somebody how much does it cost, what I typically get is a 10-minute narrative, and I still come out not knowing how much it costs. So make it simple for me.
You don't want to hear about the new technology, the juice, the gasoline that's included in getting all of that data. We try to make it simple models, and as a company, there's struggles in terms of the different types of cost structures, and everyone has different budgets, and you want to try to stay away from the customization side of things, but you also want to make it easy for people to make decisions.
Make it easy then. I mean, the onus is on you guys. Say, okay, for a year, if you're going to use this much, it'll cost you that.
Maybe it is that technology provider wants you to see them as their partner, as a long-term, and not as a simple retailer. That's somebody that will stick to you. And
I've said partner all the way through this. And there's people here who I partner with. And I will be with you for the long term. I want your success and your development, your innovation is my success.
but development costs.
Yes, of course it does. And I'll pay for the product. But what I won't do is pay for stuff I don't want. I've got 61 analysts. I'm not going to pay for your analysts. I've got all my team who are really strong. I don't need to pay for your setup. I've got subject matter experts that are better than your guys who are dealing in healthcare one day and food the next day. Sorry. And I want to be your partner, and I will be your partner. I'll do case studies, I'll evangelize you, but cost counts. I've got limited budget, and next year I'm going to have less budget, and I'm going to use more data. Todd, your mouth is moving, but no words are coming out.
I think, let's put it this way. If shit hits the fan with one of your CEO clients and they need data, they'll pay whatever it needs to take if it's a crisis.
Yes.
It's value.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, value trumps everything.
Getting the data trumps everything.
Valuable data.
Data.
From more than one source, probably.
And that's your problem.
No, it's your problem, because it's when you say, we've got everything. And
there's not one source, and no one ever says, we have everything.
Yes.
We would like one source to have everything to make it easier, and I agree. Let's try to get everything as a provider.
it's almost, I've got to point out here, we didn't plan this bit of to and fro because it's the actual best segue into the next slide. Because some companies have actually tried to make it one provider. Now, this question was only sent to buyers of technology because there's been so much acquisition in this space, merging, buying people out, and it can be great, and it cannot be so great. So we asked them, what are the advantages of buying? Because there is that view, I want one provider. But with that view, there can be concerns. I've got my personal bias here, and I'm going to try very hard not to comment on this slide. But I'm really happy to hear what everyone else thinks. And Todd, you can lead this bit.
Well, let's review this a little bit more. Buyers are excited about opportunity for new data sources and functionality.
I'd love it. If I could find one company says, you know what, you want Instagram? I got it. You want to engage with people? I can do that now. I'd love that. But let me tell you what I'm worried about. I have seen companies acquire other companies in the past. And they buy them either for market share or they buy them for their innovation, and then they drop them. Let me tell you what it's like when I bring in a new technology. It's not a case of I sign a dotted line and everyone starts using it the next day. It takes me 6 months to make people believe it's their idea that I'm picking this technology. Once I've got it in, it takes me a year to get people trained up and using it, and the second year to get people wanting to change their process and loving it. It's on year 3 that I need to buy more data and more users and everything else. If a company buys another company and then drops them or integrates them into something else and doesn't really have that functionality, I've now got a 3-year job to try and get people onto a new system. I am scared. I am scared out of my brains when companies acquire each other. So for those of you who are technology vendors who are thinking of an acquisition strategy, I get it. You either want to sell your company or you're thinking of buying someone else. That's business, no problems. Think about people like me who may think, I don't know whether I want to work with you because will this company be around in 2 years' time? Or are you just using it to plug a gap? Will you try and force 2 things together that don't fit? The people like myself who are buyers in this industry, we have all experienced over the past several years being told that they've got this great new solution and it doesn't fit together as well as we'd like. So do it. I understand it will. Just be mindful of the problems.
We're approaching 30 minutes, so we have one last slide.
Well, the last slide is summarizing what we've talked about. And my take from all of these slides is that how do technology providers think? Do they innovate because there's some really cool tech and they can do something? Or do they speak to people like me and say, what do you need? Do they understand the things that are important and critical to me for me to be successful? Because my success is going to be your success. And I recognize before everyone goes out and talks to a CEO and says, stop investing in dashboards. I recognize that my bias may be slightly more mature in how I use data. I don't need those automated reports. I don't need the ease of setup. I'm happy to put up with the complexity to get the right data. But there is a misalignment between what people sell and they think what's important and what people buy and what they think is important. So I would encourage everyone to collaborate closer with their advisory team about what is needed.
Are there any questions or comments from the audience for Sophia or Jonny? Yes. Try again.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thomas from Infomedia. Obviously, I have a question for the buyer side. First, a question, but first a comment. I think we're maybe, it's nice for the discussion, making this very simple, easy. Maybe, buying technology, we have to be a little bit more sophisticated, in my view. It could be about your strategy, basically. Are you having a one-shop strategy? I should actually, as a technology provider, be concerned about integration. You should as well buying or partnering up with me. If you have a best of breed strategy, you should be concerned maybe yourself in how to integrate services. So this is just a comment. But my question is, why is it, when I call you Monday, and you send me, together with your procurement department, you send me the tender material, that it will 99% for sure be a very comprehensive material we receive with very specific requests on this and that functionality. This is what we experience in the industry. whereas you make it really, really simple and easy, and kind of communicating, not really an interest for functionality, but this is not what we see in the market when we receive material. So this is my question: why is it like this?
I think it's a maturity thing. There are when I'm looking to buy a new product, I have a list of hygiene factors. I need the company to be able to do these 20 things. And that's why you get the RFI that's quite comprehensive, says, can you do these 20 things? And legal probably adds in another 20 pages about data compliance. Your problem. But provided you do those bits, the next bits are all focused on what you saw in this presentation. Are you going to be a partner? Do I want single player or best of breed? If it's best of breed, can I easily integrate it because of exporting functions? So you buy from people, not from technology companies. Provided you get past that first stage of can you do the job, and let's face it, in this space, many people all have access to the same APIs. They can all do the job. Then it's the secondary factors, the business model, the setup and maintenance, the partnership. Those are the things that make a difference and may choose whether I decide to go with you or somebody else.
Yeah, I really appreciate the comment and the question, and I would say more than half the time, procurement doesn't even understand. They're just looking like it's black and white, and you have to re-educate the procurement department versus the sponsor, like, really, sorry, I can't do anything, you're with procurement now. Happens a lot.
I'm sure it does. And you know what? Agencies, and we go through the same thing when people ask to pitch to us. I get a large document saying, can you do these services? We have the same thing. It's all sucky for everybody. And I would love it if procurement weren't involved ever, and we could just have conversations. But go figure. They've got to pay their salary too.
Do we have time for one more question, comment? Okay, one more question, comment from anyone in the audience. Yes.
Maya from Cometric. I filled in the survey from the perspective of a technology buyer. And as you, Jonny, I consider myself an advanced type of user. So I was very interested in the exporting functionality as a kind of top answer for the technology buyer's perspective. And then, but I was a bit puzzled with your comment on the pricing cost models. Are you really prepared to pay by the amount of data you use and export? And don't you think this is going to make your costs go up compared to a regular contract with a license?
I am happy to pay for the amount of data. I set my budgets at the beginning of the year. I know what my run rate is for my clients. I know I'm going to spend, let's say, 40 million mentions a month. That's about $500 million a year. I'll budget on that. And it means I know exactly what I'm paying.
If you don't use it, do you lose it?
Yes.
You're okay with that?
And you know what? If I need more, I'll pay for more.
And to all of the technology vendors who have the type of platform, self-service platform where you have an exporting button, can you provide for the Tech Hub SIG some anonymized data on the share of your clients who actually use the exporting function versus the ready-to-use exports and like the ready reports, one-click reports? I would be super interested to see.
Sophia? She's on it.
When Sophia is on it, I know that it will be delivered, I'm sure.
Well, then let's ask who answer the surveys, and let's ask them if they would be willing to share this kind of data. And if they are willing to share, then I'm happy to share as well.
Thank you, everyone.
Wonderful. Round of applause for this panel. Fantastic. Thank you so much. And a special thank you to Sophia and Jonny for all of their work in putting the survey together. And now that we have one element that we would like the Tech Hub to further develop so that we can continue to improve the data and the relationships is absolutely wonderful.